Looking for a guaranteed way to create content that resonates with your audience? Start a podcast. Interview your ideal clients and let them choose the topic of the interview. Because if your ideal clients care about the topic, there's a good chance the rest of your audience will care about it too. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm Jonathan Green.
And I'm James Carberry.
Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. Today's episode is brought to you by Directive Consulting, the B2B search marketing agency. Today, we are joined by John Bonini. He is the Director of Marketing at Databox. John, how you doing today, man?
I'm great. I'm pumped to be on with the famous James Carberry, so I'm really excited to be here.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that, man, but I'm really pumped to chat with you today. We've been going back and forth on LinkedIn for a while. I've been seeing what you guys are up to at Databox. I filled out a lot of the surveys that you guys put out. I love the content strategy, which could probably be a whole nother episode on kind of how you guys are approaching your content strategy by really including a lot of your potential buyers, potential customers in that. But today we're actually going to be talking about how the right performance insights fuel growth. But before we get into that, I think it's a no-brainer why you guys are the ones to be talking about this. But tell our listeners, for those that aren't familiar with Databox and what you guys are up to, what the company does and what you guys are doing up there.
Sure. Our mission is we help make performance insights more accessible for everyone, really. So marketers, salespeople, customer success, because traditionally accessing these kind of like deep insights, performance insights for the work that you're doing traditionally requires some sort of technical capabilities, whether that's writing SQL or having spreadsheet mastery, to be able to pull insights from all the different channels that you're using. And I think HubSpot put out a report that the average number of channels that marketers, salespeople are using is like 12 channels that they're pulling data from. Wow. So yeah, Databox is a dashboard software that actually does much more than that, but it lets you easily drag and drop sort of the most important metrics from all the places that you're using, all of these disparate tools, and track all of that in one place, set goals and schedule alerts and all kinds of those things. So yeah, we're making something that's traditionally viewed as being very clinical and complex and simplifying it by essentially allowing people to sort of shortcut the whole figuring out how to get the data that they need and skipping right to the insights, because I think people don't necessarily want data, right? They want insights. So we're helping people shortcut that.
Love it. And you guys work with, you have a lot of agencies using the product, right? Right.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, right? So, we just talked about how complex it can be to sort of pull data from 12 different channels to be able to make sense of it and really have a comprehensive view on performance. If you think about that challenge inside of a company, that's a challenge. But when you think about that challenge for an agency who needs to manage that for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 clients, I mean, it turns into a really expensive nightmare, right? That you have to do every month. And then mid-month, when you get questions, they're really hard to answer, right? Because it's really hard to make those sort of, proclamations or analysis mid-month. So yeah, it was a really natural fit, I think. And it solved a real problem. Yeah.
So first I want to, talk with you, John, about the overarching challenge with reporting on performance, kind of the way that people did it prior to you guys coming into the game. Talk about that, and then we're going to dive into kind of what needs to change to fix that approach.
Right. So this is one that I have some, most of us have some battle scars from, but some personal experience with, and really, like I touched on it a second ago, and that's like, so if you think about the channels that we all leverage as marketers, salespeople, customer success reps, these channels have obviously evolved and changed, to say the least, over the past, even like 5 years. But when you talk about 10 years, 15 years, right? They've changed pretty dramatically. So as a result, a lot of the channels that we all use and rely on every day, they have an immediate feedback loop, right? So whether you're running an ads campaign or you sent out an email, or you published a blog post, these things have a pretty immediate feedback loop on them. So, leveraging these kind of channels, these digital channels, has changed the expectations of your team. So if you're managing a team, the people on your team want to know how the work they're doing impacts the business, right? They want to know how things perform so they can do better work, and people want to feel that they're contributing, right? It gives everyone a sense of fulfillment. And then you have your bosses, right? They want to know how everything performed, right? Like how that ad campaign performed, what the cost per click is, and maybe how many opportunities were working this week that originated from an email campaign or whatever it is. So the channels that we've all used have really changed over the past decade plus. That's changed everyone's expectations, performance, and when they should be able to expect answers on it. But the tools that most companies use to sort of follow performance and report on it once they're pulling it from all the different places they're using have not changed. So you're still using spreadsheets, still using slide decks, or still downloading CSVs or copy and pasting from disparate tools. So everything's really static. So you can be asked a question like, James, how did our organic perform this week? And those kind of questions are really hard to answer when you are functioning in a static way, right? When you need to download data and put it into a spreadsheet and then visualize it like in a slide deck. So it doesn't allow for the type of on-demand analysis that our teams and bosses now expect from us. Yeah. And if you're an agency, your clients, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 of them. Yep. So the problem really is quite simply that the channels that we all use have changed a lot. We all know that. That's obvious. What maybe isn't so obvious is as a result of those changes, that's really changed the expectations of everyone around us. And the way we're reporting on the performance of those tools needs to evolve with it. And in most cases, it's not. So you have a lot of marketers and salespeople and business people that face a lot of really uncomfortable questions, whether it's from their team, their clients, or their boss about how things are performing.
So to solve for that, John, like obviously data, it's what Databox does, but what are some other kind of fundamental things that need to happen for that to no longer be a struggle, for that to be something that you can overcome, whether you're, at an organization or you're in an agency?
Right. And before I answer that, I want to make sure I follow through, because I said I was going to share a personal anecdote. But in that previous question, at a company that I had worked for in the past, every Monday we would have a reporting meeting. And so as a result, on the weekend, you would do everything I just said, right? Because you wanted to have the most up-to-date data. You didn't want to take it on Friday. You wanted to take it on Sunday because your metrics would be a little bit different. So you would pull the data, put it into a spreadsheet, put it in a slide deck, and come Monday morning, I'd be sick every morning, because it was just, you were stomach sick that, in doing all of that so quickly, is everything accurate? You didn't really have enough time to really give a deep analysis of the data because you were so busy just pulling it. So every Monday, it was just like a really small anxiety attack, right? Like every single Monday. So in feeling that pain. And so what can people do about that? I mean, the obvious answer, which is it traditionally hasn't really been easy to solve, is to not have to pull all that data, to have everything updating in real time in one place. So your paid ads in Facebook, in LinkedIn, or AdWords, and then your content that you're running through HubSpot, or your whatever other tools you're using from a CMS or ESP standpoint, like all of that stuff is tracking in one place. And all you have to do is check it, right? Like that's the dream, is being able to have all of that in one place. So you could sort of check it every single day and be able to make adjustments on the fly and actually be agile. And the thing about that is most companies who say they're agile or say that they're data driven, in reality, they're more reactive, right? Like I think what a lot of marketers think data driven means is I have access to data. Right? Like I can jump into GA, or I can jump into my MailChimp account or my Moz account or SEMrush, whatever it is, and I have access to data. Therefore, I am data driven. But it's not about that. So what ends up happening is when people have access to data, but it's not centralized, what happens is data driven to them means the gas pedal and the brake pedal. So because they're jumping in and out of 12 different places, in most cases, they're noticing things when it's not that it's too late, but they're saying, oh, hit the gas, hit the brakes. This is down or whatever it is. And we need to change this ASAP. But in reality, being data driven, when you put everything in a central location, when you're tracking everything in one place, and you consolidate sort of all your data in one place, it's now you're the steering wheel. So you're not mashing the gas, you're not mashing the brakes, you're making small adjustments in real time, right? Just like you're driving. Yeah. And you could hopefully getting a lot of airtime out of this driving analogy here. So you're the steering wheel. You're making slight adjustments in real time rather than slamming the gas or slamming on the brakes. Very few orgs obviously have that capability. So really what that entails is you need to be able to have a central location where all of your performance data lives, where not only you have access to it, so you can, if you're a manager or a director, that you can sort of set direction and collaborate on strategy from a more informed place, but your team also has access to it, right? So nobody's coming and saying like, how does our email perform, or how did those paid ads perform? Yeah. A lot of people depend on that data and those insights for their jobs, and just to stay sort of in the loop, right, on the overall health of a department or an organization. So really the biggest thing is being able to consolidate performance from a lot of different places, which is traditionally very hard. The second step from there is because, when people pull a ton of data into a spreadsheet, you're basically looking at tables of data. And to a lot of people, that's not helpful, right? They need to be able to visualize it, to be able to understand how something is trending. They need to be able to look at it quickly. So another thing that sort of on the back end of being able to track everything in one place, the second part is there needs to be an easier way for the everyday marketer, salesperson, customer success rep that doesn't know how to write SQL, that maybe doesn't have an analyst background, that doesn't know how to create pivot tables and all the different functions in Excel. There needs to be an easy way for those people, which I'll raise my hand, I'm one of them, to be able to take the insights from having all that data in one place. So that's basically the output of what you see on that now, James, is the slide decks that you end up seeing in meetings. So you see line graphs that show trends, you'll see bar graphs, pie charts. All those sort of visualizations are what help people learn the story and see how everything is progressing towards goals, or how everything's trending and how people need to make adjustments. So those two things really have to happen in concert. The data needs to be all in one place, and there needs to be an easy way for you to be able to visualize that data so everyone can understand it, from the executive, the C-level executive, to your mid-level managers, to your customer support reps and content marketers, and everybody needs to be able to understand that data quickly. And that's one of the things I think that really drew me to Databox last summer, was that they had this really, really intuitive functionality that allowed you to just drag and drop, almost like it was like you were dragging and dropping a song into a playlist on Spotify or something. Mm-hmm. You can drag and drop like a block of data, like new versus returning visitors from GA. You would literally drag it into your dashboard and it would visualize. You had to do nothing except connect your Google Analytics account. Nice. And that to me is what the ideal state needs to look like in order for people to have that on-demand capability. Is I had the data available and I was able to visualize it in literally a click.
All right, I want to tell you a little story about Clear Company. This HR tech company was doing a lot of things right. Their messaging was clear, their product produced incredible results, but they were struggling to drive qualified traffic to their website. Then they found Directive Consulting, a B2B search marketing agency. Within the first 12 months of working with Directive, Clear Company was able to increase their qualified lead volume by 157%. Now, I have a hunch that Directive can get these kind of results for you too. So head over to directiveconsulting.com and request a totally free custom proposal. That's directiveconsulting.com. All right, let's get back to this interview.
So John, with you being, director of marketing at Databox, you guys are drinking your own champagne over there. You're using the product, obviously. What are some of the adjustments that you've been able to make that you wouldn't have otherwise been able to make, just to give some people some ideas on how they can be leveraging the visualization of the data that they get access to when they're using a tool like this?
Right. So I think one of the first things that it enables is that we're not a meeting obsessed company. We're still relatively we're not 100 plus employees or anything like that, but what it enables the team to do is you're able to sort of cut down on status updates and meetings in general. So when everyone has live access to those sort of performance insights at all times, what happens is your team will end up being more focused on sort of the deep work and execution that sort of will go along with improving whatever the key metrics are for your company that you identify. So, I mean, just to use us as an example, like I said, we're not a meeting obsessed company. A lot of the people on our team are focused on, getting stuff done every single day. Yep. So during weekly meetings that we do have, what we end up doing is we catch up on what we call, depending on what the meeting is, our company top 5 or company top 10, which is sort of top 5 or top 10 metrics that we've sort of identified as a company that really contribute towards our growth, right? So that's something that we all agreed upon. Somebody is accountable for all of those metrics individually, not one person is accountable for all those metrics. Yeah. But what we end up doing is we have these really productive meetings when we do have them is, so everybody has access to these dashboards. They update automatically. It's all automated. You don't have to do anything. So what ends up happening is these meetings, instead of focusing on the what, like how did this perform, or where is this data? Where can we get this data? The 3 things that we end up talking about is, what are the things that we did last week? What effect did it have on, if it's these 5 metrics or these 10 metrics? What are we going to do this week? And, sort of what's the perspective? How do we think that it's going to have an impact on on those top 5 or top 10 metrics in the week coming? Yeah. So what it ends up doing is it enables the team to have more productive and less meetings. So you eliminate the status update, and really what it allows is more focus on the deep work and execution part of things, which only happens when you have, when performance insights are accessible to you.
Could you share, would you be willing to share, 1 or 2 performance insights that you've been able to tap into recently by having access to this, to the data that you guys have?
Yep, sure. Some of the metrics that, we're able to track is, so one of the cool things, one of the big benefits of having a place that you're sort of consolidating all your data is you can manipulate data from different tools with one another. So for example, HubSpot and Google Analytics, right? You can draw correlation more easily between disparate tools and when they're living in different places. So, we obviously use tools like Mixpanel to track, app engagement and, what people are doing in the app, whether it's converting to a paid user or using a specific feature or clicking on something specific. So, one of the insights that marketing here it sort of owns is sign up to paid, which is a big one, right? Very standard in the SaaS space, but traditionally is something that can be tougher to track. And I've been a part of teams in the past where it's like you're kind of falling all over yourselves to try to be able to track these metrics. But a few that we're able to easily pull in and track every week is like, all right, obviously the sessions and signups and things like that, but also visit to sign up and sign up to paid are bigger ones because you can sort of more clearly see the effectiveness of your marketing. So sign up to paid is a big one that we're heavily focused on, being a SaaS company and having a free model. So that's one that we're, constantly optimizing for and trying to improve the experience and improving onboarding and education within the app.
Did that sign up to paid conversion rate go up or down, last week based on this, kind of visualized data that we now have? What did we do last week to make that try to go up? And basically you're then just kind of able to make an assessment on the fly to say, okay, whatever we did last week. So say if it did go up, okay, that thing that we did, because I would imagine you're doing this kind of micro test at a time. Is that right? Like you're only tweaking one thing at a time to see so that you can identify what actually works and what doesn't?
Right. Yeah. Our team has like 1 week sprints. So
got it.
We run, not as many tests as if we were a bigger team. They're usually, it's definitely always one thing at a time. We're able to track, if things are improving and depending on what the metric is, because the data updates, in real time, you could see, I'll look at it a couple times a day to see, sometimes our, Brian Mosley, who works closely with our agencies here, if he closes a few agencies, obviously that number is affected, or if we have an email campaign that's going out, or a high number of signups, obviously that means a lot of people are going into the onboarding program. So you can see numbers fluctuate daily. And I think that's even more helpful too for me when it comes into the execution, right? Because I think executives, they want to see the cumulative like progress. Is it trending towards the goal? And then when you get down to the folks that are doing the work, they want to see those daily fluctuations. They want to see, what did I do? What did we do yesterday? What was different? So they can identify sort of any sort of anomaly or thing that may have, influenced growth that they can either do again, do more of, do less
or
of,
stop doing, yeah,
or stop doing, right? So yeah, like sign up to paid in that example, that's one that you'll see fluctuate, but that's one that you probably look at, as you said, probably on a weekly basis. And at the start of every month, it's going to take 7 days for that number to really mean anything, because at the beginning of every month you're starting at 0 signups. The signups are going to take a little while to be able to evaluate the product and start paying. So that one is one that you definitely track on a weekly basis and see where you're at the end of the month. But then you have a lot of leading indicators up to that, signups and how specific pages are performing, and being able to see the daily fluctuations without having to do anything, or from 12 or numerous different apps, is what it ends up doing is allows us to be able to spend, actually, believe it or not, less time with data, because you're able to just come and go. You know where everything is. It's tracking automatically. You have a look at it, and then you can get back to doing the work that is contributing towards that growth.
Yeah, I love it. You spend more time thinking creatively about how to make those numbers go up, the numbers that you want to go up, as opposed to that time otherwise being spent trying to collect the data that is trying to enable you to be able to make those creative decisions.
Right now, it's probably disproportionately weighted towards you're spending more time just trying to find the data, input it somewhere that makes sense, communicate it to everybody, and then you spend a little bit of time talking about, all right, here's what we could do next. Here's 5 things. Whereas what we've been able to do as a team is we've reversed that. So because everybody has access to that, there's virtually not a ton of time spent talking about where the data is, and most of the conversations are more just about, okay, cool, what are we doing next? And the stuff that we did last week, why or why not do you think it didn't have an impact? So it's like I said, it's much more productive conversations and meetings and strategy.
I love it. John, this has been fantastic. If there's somebody listening to this, they want to stay connected with you, they want to learn more about Databox, they want to subscribe to your podcast, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
So I mean, I'm just on Twitter at Bonini84. Databox is really easy. It's just databox.com. And yeah, as you mentioned, we do have a podcast of our own. It's called Ground Up. And we spend some time talking about our own sort of growth trajectory and the things that we're doing and things that are working and not working, and sort of telling our tale. But we also have a ton of guests on just talking about the real stuff, the hard stuff of growing a business. And we've had Rand Fishkin and Jason Fried on, and folks from HubSpot, and Nir Eyal, who is one of my favorites. So yeah, wherever you listen to podcasts, it's just called Ground Up, and it's by Databox.
Awesome, John. Well, thank you again so much for your time. I think our listeners are going to get a ton of value out of this, so I really appreciate it, man.
Sure thing. Thanks a lot, James. It was a lot of fun.
There are lots of ways to build a community, and we've chosen to build the B2B growth community through this podcast. But because of the way podcasts work, it's really hard to engage with our listeners. And without engagement, it's tough to build a great community. So here's what we've decided to do. We're organizing small dinners across the country with our listeners and guests. No sales pitches, no agenda, just great conversations with like-minded people. We'll talk business, we'll talk family, we'll talk goals and dreams. We'll build friendships. So if you'd like to be a part of a B2B growth dinner in a city near you, go to b2bgrowthdinners.com. That's b2bgrowthdinners.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.